Probably sharing over here somewhere.
Yeah, what that is about.
Still looking out.
All right, well, welcome everybody to the tonight's town hall. This is, of course, Ward 2 and 4. Everyone in the correct room? Everyone's looking for some sort of extension class or? All right, we're in the right spot. This is an opener. I'm here, Michael Zarazinski, and it's good to see you guys all here, and thanks for coming out. A little bit about how this program is going to work. We're going to do a brief introduction. We're going to get an opportunity to talk about things that are near to their heart. We'll do a little bit of a kickoff by some of our actually, let's double check this schedule here. Yes, we'll have a slight presentation from some of our panelists here, and then we're going to open it up to you, to all of your questions. What does make this work, I appreciate everyone who has a question that you filled it out, put it here. We're going to try to get to all of them as we can. However, if we don't get to everybody, we will be sticking around a little bit. We are going to try to go in order with the questions that we have. Oftentimes, that'll maybe get you thinking about something. Or maybe you're going to hear something you don't like as an answer, and you're going to feel kind of the need to explain that back to us immediately. Don't. Hold that thought. We can catch it afterwards. What we want to be able to do is have everybody get an opportunity to share their questions. Again, it may spur some thought in your mind, but at the end of the day, we do want to keep kind of orderly. I'm just looking out at this group. Oh, this is going to be a great group. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, so let's go down the line here, and everyone can introduce themselves and why they're up here on the panel.
Good evening. My name is Eric Thompson, and I'm your fire chief. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to share kind of what the fire department has. I've been in the service for 31 years. I've been your chief for 6.5. Really happy to say that the fire department is fully staffed going into fire season. As you know, that we started fire season last week. So ready to go, working with our neighbors in collaboration, so we're all on the same page. Very important. Also, you'll notice Fire Station 15 that's on Roberts Road. That project is well underway. And we're ahead of schedule and under budget actually on that project. So that's another clapping for us. And also we're fully staffed on our EMS squad. Our EMS squads, we have 3 EMS squads, and that's been one of the highlights of what we've done over the last several years, innovative solution to our EMS responses. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight to answer any questions and to meet the community. And I just want to say thank you very much for being here, because it shows that you really truly care what's happening in the community. Thank you.
Evening, everybody. I'm Rich Rosenthal. I'm your Parks and Recreation Director. I'm in my 19th year with the city. And on Monday, you have information about some park initiatives in the brochure here. I just want to invite you all on Memorial Day on this coming Monday at 1:30 is the grand opening of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall at Howard Memorial Sports Park. That is a project that has been 12 to 15 years since it began. That's a notable event. Also, if you play pickleball, here, you know anyone who plays pickleball? Okay. All right. There are 19 football courts opening on June 5th, on Friday, June 5th. Howard Memorial Sports Park as well. And sand volleyball courts sometime in June. So that's what's going on in our world. It's fun. And worth everyone.
I'm Dan Worth, Public Works Director. I handle streets, sewers, water treatment, and storm drains. And just a brief couple of words about streets, because that's what you see all the time and are most familiar with, I'm sure. And the fire chief talked about being fully staffed going into the fire season. We're fully staffed going into the street maintenance, repair, and barricade season. So A couple of things that we're doing, finishing up a big project, Foothill. It's been under construction for 2 years. We're gonna call it a day, sometime in the middle of the summer. Actually gonna have a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate, but that's been a great project. I'm glad that I hear nothing but good things from the community about it. It's been a great asset for us. We're also doing some surface street repair and maintenance kind of work. We do slurry seals, which is a thin layer of asphalt. We actually started doing that in the southern part of the city. I just drove down Hamilton Street, just put the asphalt down on that, the slurry down on that this week. You can tell which streets are on this year's plan. If it's black from side to side, we've already done it. That's Hamilton, that's Calle Vista. If it looks like it normally does, but all the arrows are missing and all the bite markings are missing, that means we're gonna do it. That's a lot of Jackson and Hillcrest and a couple of others. And if it just looks like normal, then we're gonna get to it in the next couple of years. But we're doing a lot of that, and we're doing one project that's gonna be a little bit more intrusive, removing some asphalt, rebuilding it. That's gonna be mostly on McAndrews and Hillcrest, where McAndrews crosses Foothills and then up the hill. That's gonna be a little bit later in the summer, July timeframe. So, any questions? I'll be here. Love to talk about any of that. Love to talk about wastewater. It's believe it or not. Thank you very much.
So, actually, go back to council. Wait, sorry, I cut off the applause. Please, stand where.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is John Vile. I am serving as the interim city manager for the city. At this time, I worked for the city about 5 years. I worked as the public works director previously. I retired, and then I was asked to come back and serve as an interim role for city manager while we're recruiting for a new one. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve you and to serve the city in that capacity. I wanted to just touch on one thing real quick. You're going to hear from the city councilors in a second, and right now staff's introducing themselves. What is the difference in the role between staff, these directors that are here, and the city councilors that you're going to hear from in a minute? What's the difference in what do we do differently than each other? This is the part where you can talk back. That's what they said last time too. Yeah, that we get paid and they don't. That's a good clarification. Anything else? Do the work. Do the work. So they work hard though. Believe me, they have a lot of meetings. They are very involved in the work and they do the work. But the bottom line is council sets policy. They establish council goals. They approve our work plans. They approve the budget. Council sets the policy and then staff implements the policy. So the work that we're doing and the work that I'm responsible for is to make sure that we're doing what council asks us to do and we're delivering the results that they want us to do. So that's our big focus, is carrying out the mission of the city as established by the policymakers that's on the city council. And so it's a fun role that we play, and we're grateful for the leadership that we have in our mayor and our council. With that, I'm going to hand it to Eric Mitten, our city attorney.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric Mitten. I'm the city attorney. What that means is I'm general counsel for the city. I do legal work for the city. Everything from land use to representing the city in litigation, giving advice to our elected officials and staff. And our office also prosecutes criminal cases in municipal court, shoplifts, livability crimes in our city parks, those sorts of things. And I've been with the city for about 10 years now, and it's been a great organization to be part of.
Good evening, Justin Ivins. Like John, I think I'm your interim police chief because I did retire in January and contracted back for 6 months. Our new chief has been selected. That's Deputy Chief Trevor Arnold, who will be taking over on June 3rd. But with that said, I have worked for the city of Medford for past 31 years, so I've been here a minute. In fact, when I first started, it used to be a parking lot. That used to be a parking lot with our gas pumps. That used to be a post office, so a lot of changes that you can imagine. What I just want to touch on just real quick is I get the privilege of leading 180 plus employees. that do amazing work day in and day out. It is an extremely tough job. As you can imagine, we deal with we'll say, challenging population. And our men and women do the best. I've had the opportunity to go throughout the state of Oregon, all over the West Coast, and visit other police departments, and I will honestly say we are the best trained and have some of the most professional people in our organization. When we first started these town halls, I've been part of every single one of them. Homelessness was the #1 issue. And in 2023, we had some problems with homelessness. We had over 100 plus identified camps, encampments inside the city limits. I can tell you that number as of this March was 13. We continue to keep working on them. Thank you. It's not me. It's the men and women out there doing it. And we're lucky enough, we have our outreach coordinator, Vicki Armstrong, in the back. She probably has one of the most difficult jobs at the police department, but what Vicki does every day is she goes over to the jail, makes contact with these individuals, both there and here, and provides outreach options and tries to get these folks in a better position than they currently are. And she does an amazing job. And so I don't, not just hook and book and lock them up. We honestly try as a department to better these people's situation, because the less we deal with them, the more efficient we are, and we're money ahead. But I just want to say thank you. The public support that I have seen from this city for the past 31 years has just been absolutely amazing, and it's been a privilege to be your chief. Thank you.
No problem. Counselors will introduce themselves, maybe give a little idea of why they ran, what the priorities are that they're seeing in the city. Kind of give you a little insight into what. We're here with John Quinn.
I'm John Quinn, Ward 2, which is west of the freeway, south of Maine, and downtown south of Fort. I've been living in Medford for 25 years. Been an attorney for 33. The last 25 have been as a district attorney. Now the assistant district attorney for Siskiyou County. Yes, I do drive the pass, and no, it is not. Before this, I was on the planning commission, so I got to learn land use in addition to criminal and public safety in my work. I'm also the president of the Rogue Valley Council of Governments Board of Directors, vice chair of the Rogue Valley Sewer Service Board of Directors. And I've been doing this since 24, and it's my honor to be here with all of you. And the thought that I'll leave you with this introduction is, the enemy of freedom is not tyranny, silence, and inertia. So we want to hear from you always. That's why I'm glad you're all.
Ward 2 with John Quinn, so like he said, southwest corner of Medford. This is my 4th year on the city council, raising 3 children here, and just wanted to leave Medford in a better place than I found it. I felt like this organization was a powerhouse, and even now with everybody that's on it, I'm going to leave it even better than I found it. So my main focus, along with the rest of these guys, has been downtown, just making it better, getting more businesses, downtown revitalization.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Card. I am Ward 4. That is southeast Medford. I've been on city council going on 3.5 years now. I am a 5th generation Oregonian who was born and raised in this area. My family has deep ties to Medford and Southern Oregon. And one of the things that really drove me to run for city council, that drives the service that I do here, is that we are not building a future for ourselves. We're not building a future for tomorrow. We're building a future for the next generation. We're building a future for our grandchildren. And it is so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of the particular issues that we have. But we also have to think long-term. And how do we think bigger and what comes next? Some of the things that, I've been really proud of the work that we've done with the chief on homelessness, and that has been an important issue for us. But when we talk about things like Foothill Road, this is a piece of infrastructure that's going to last well past my lifetime. And when you think about what it takes to make a successful community, how do we have the tools in place to support housing for our children, for the next generation to be able to live and raise their family? How do we make sure that they have the parks and amenities that they need in order to, take their kids outside and spread a blanket and have dinner under the stars? Like, these are the things that define a growing city. You talk to people who lived in communities that they're very proud of. It's not the same. There's not like one secret sauce. It's all of these things coming together that make for a great community. So I'm always on the hunt for what's that next thing. How do we make sure we take that and take it far into the future so our community is strong, stronger as we keep going? As Zach said, how do we leave it better than we found it? And so hopefully that's what I have proven that I can do on council. Hopefully that's something that we can continue to do. I thank staff for actually doing the work and making us look good on council. So thanks, John. But it's a pleasure to be your city councilor. Thank you so much for coming out to chat with us today.
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Keating. I am Ward 4 as well. I am kind of the freshman class, elected 2 years ago. I'm a local teacher. I teach civics, history, business at St. Mary's. Brought up 4 kids here, been here about 25 years as well as John. Never a good thing to speak after Nick Barr, but I'll do my best. I guess I was really interested I've been on a lot of commissions already. I was on RVTD. I'm currently also on the library board. And I've been on Parks and Rec and some other things. So I've been involved in city business, all on a volunteer basis, of course. And what was important to me is making sure that we maintain fiscal responsibility. We're doing a great job in there. Keep safety as high as a priority as we can. And police, as the chief mentioned, they're doing a great job. And then lastly, beautify, bring people downtown, but also bring people to Medford, businesses to Medford. Make it so our kids can come back and live here, keep housing prices as low as we can, to the extent that we can do anything about that. So yeah, really looking forward to having you guys ask some questions. And I applaud you all for taking time out to come down here for your city. Thank you.
We're going to we'll just start going through the file here. And do we have a program? Do we have a program? You guys all talked about what you want to talk about, didn't you? Okay, introduce yourself. I did. I'm the mayor. Hey, I'll tell you guys a quick story. I've been going downtown with trying to engage with local businesses down there through the downtown residents. What it's turned into, so they want to do like social media content. I'll be honest. If the internet was relying upon me to provide content, the social media industry would. Right? So I do not do any of it, but whatever. I'll kick in, I'll go, and I'll participate. They do the little video, and I kind of man on the street, and I'm out talking to people. And this is what this has turned into now, is some sort of bizarre reverse. Where's Waldo? Where we just ask at the end, do you know who the mayor is? Because that's what I asked them, and nobody has any. Just show of hands. Anybody know I was the mayor prior to walking in? Chief. So at any rate, it's yeah, I don't, not really a giant personality. I'm not really big on voting myself. But to be honest, you just met these 4 counselors. You met this staff. This is a talented group of people. My job is just to help them. Let's all row the same direction. Okay, that being said, we're going to grab questions. Best we can, we want the council to engage with you. However, if it comes down to something specific, as we talked about, operations versus safe policy, we have our phone a friends available. They'll come. You got KJ there. If you got a question that hasn't picked up, just raise your hand and somebody will come grab it. Okay. What will you do about wild turkeys in East Medford? You know what?
Let's feed them.
Yeah, let's feed them. This has been around for a while, by the way. I was taking calls. I will give you a little brief history. I was on council for 8 years. First elected in the 2014 election, so 2015. This has been around a while. I personally have talked to Fish and Wildlife about this, and I don't think we went anywhere with it. And now they're still around. I will tell you this, it's not just East Medford, by the way, that makes you feel. However, anybody here talk to Fish and Wildlife? Call it. Receive a call regarding. You know anything about turkey?
They're everywhere.
Here's what we're gonna do on this one. Very unsatisfying answer. It's been a problem for a while. We've done nothing about it, and here's the deal. No, I know that we have been in touch with Fish and Wildlife. However, it is starting to get more prevalent. It is. It's probably about time that we reach back out. Let's see.
Call your turkey.
The city just spent money on updating cross. Does the city have the interest and resources by the installation of speed humps to slow vehicles down residential areas? There's also a little bit more information on kind of their reasons for supporting them. Speed humps, anyone? I'll tell you this right now. Speed humps have a couple of problems with them. Yes, do they slow down traffic? They do. Inherently, there are some public works issues that come up with speed humps. Dan, are you prepared to talk about them?
I'm not sure, and there's a
No,
guy.
I'm not here.
There's a guy sitting to the right down here that may know more about this than I do, but I do not believe we have any speed humps on city public streets in the city of Medford. And I think that was a conscious policy decision several years ago to not use what we call vertical traffic calming. There are other things that we can do physically to try to slow traffic down. And we've got a process that we go through, and our friends in the police department help with us. But we've got a process that we go through. If you feel there's excessive speeding on a particular street, we'll look at it, we'll gather data, we'll do some speed enforcement, some focused speed enforcement. That's the police part. And we'll take a look at options, but speed humps for several reasons. And I'll give you one. Got a bunch of new snow plows, and if it ever snows, they get out and hit the street, and they hit those, they tear them up, and it also makes it difficult to do the repaving that I started talking about a little bit earlier. So for several reasons, we try to shy away from that, but we will study the situation on particular streets, and there are some other things that we can do besides speed. Okay,
We'll give it 30 seconds. So going forward, Dan is the point person on this, but just a little bit of history. Our city has a long-term policy of not doing speed bumps, and there's two primary reasons for it. Actually, there's multiple reasons for it, but one of the biggest ones is any cities that put them in, and they almost immediately take them out. And the reason why, if you're a neighbor who lives next to a speed bump, you are going to hate it, because what happens is it slows traffic down. That every car that goes over it, you hear a clunk, clunk, and they're very, very loud, and the neighbors hate them. And that's a really common thing where people put them in, and then they immediately take them back out because the neighborhood and the people that live right next to them hate them. They say, yeah, we like them, but put it in front of their house and not in front of my house. And so we've had a long-term policy of not doing it.
And oftentimes there is a public safety response issue that goes back. Do you have any comments?
Well, as you can imagine, speed's probably the #1 complaint in the city of Medford. And so as was touched on by Mr. Worth, we'll come out, we'll do a speed study. And as you guys know, everyone's favorite of those 187 employees, I get the photo enforcement officers as well. Everybody loves that group. But what we'll end up doing is if we have numerous violations in a specific area, if we can put the van out there, we will. There's certain criteria though for the van to be able to be placed in certain locations. And if not, we'll send the motors up there. What we typically see is that the folks that are complaining about the speeding vehicles, they then turn around and complain about getting the ticket. So it's kind of one of those no-win situations, but that's typically what happens is the people that complain are usually the ones that end up getting the photo enforcement ticket. So.
All right. And ditto for you. Habitat for Humanity store office and food truck on South Pacific Highway, somebody took away entrance and exit, so now there is only one. Cars are lined up waiting to turn into the parking lot, to exit, second entrance fee. I want to say that this is an ODOT facility there, but, Dan, do you have any recollection of this?
South Pacific Highway.
It is ODOT jurisdiction. ODOT's an interesting agency. They, the fewer people they can allow to enter to get onto the road, the better for them. I think is what they figured out. They call that access control. But at any rate, that particular part would be ODOT, probably be associated somehow with the 99 highway plan. And so it's not impossible, but not really what we'll follow. What we'll follow up. Okay. You have put in, we got a lot of good transportation. ADA. Okay, there's an ADA crosswalk at Brasher and East McAndrews. What type of crossing are you going to install? A traffic light or a flashing crossing pedestrian? Interesting. ADA and Brasher and McAndrews. I know where that's at, but I'm not familiar with the what's going on.
At that particular location, that is on our list for an overlay this summer. Sometime in July or August, we're going to be milling out the top layer of asphalt, paving it with a 2-inch layer of brand new asphalt. You're going to have basically a brand new street. We're going to be on Thrasher, Brookdale, portions of McAndrews, that area. And prior to doing that, by law, comply with the Americans with Disability Act, we have to upgrade any crossings that don't meet ADA standards. And that's what's going on out there now. We've got a contractor that's going out, and when some of those streets were originally built, they were built with ramps. If there's a ramp that's a crossing, and if the ramp doesn't meet the very precise standards, it has to do with slopes, it has to do with flat areas for somebody that's in a wheelchair to be able to come to a stop. If it doesn't meet those very strict technical specifications, you have to rebuild it. So what's going on up there is not any, we're not going to be putting in any signalized crossings or anything. It's just upgrading the existing ramps to make them comply with the standard before we go in and paving.
And so also on that, there is the pedestrian activated signal, automatic signal. Back to the point, it's interesting, if you want to qualify for certain federal funds, those ramps have to be done with private. So, a couple of fireworks questions here. I manage a mobile home park along the Greenway, and people shoot off huge illegal fireworks on it. What can be done? Is that it right there? Yeah. That's a pretty good visual aid. Well done.
That's what our 4th of July looks like.
I should. So a couple thoughts. I will tell you this, is if I actually sat down and thought about how many times we have pressed the rules on the fireworks, it was almost every year that I've talked about it. And I want to say that and we're going to get fact checks on it, that at one point in time, we actually made fireworks calls for service. So does anyone else recall that specifically? At any rate, what's that? Clearly, there's a lot of response that happens from the fire department. Let them kind of chip in and give you some background on it.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it's a very busy night for both fire and police and EMS. It's just a busy night, like many things going on that night. I know that there is a lot of concern, frustrations about the fireworks. I will tell you this, that just globally, what happens on the 4th of July is we staff up a lot. And we almost, wouldn't say we have double the resources, but every bus unit that we have in the organization is fully staffed. Our engines are fully staffed. So we're very confident in our ability to respond to fires. July is typically, it's a 6-day state law. The fireworks can be displayed for 6 days. And that's before the 4th and after the 4th, 6 days throughout the year. We have regulations in our community that ends the aerial mortars. We do have everything is on the website as far as what's legal and what is not legal. It's challenging. The enforcement piece is challenging. Everywhere you look, the sky, as your picture, sir, illustrates, it's very hard to enforce. We've considered bans multiple times, but the challenge with the ban is that there's going to be a lot of disappointment and frustrations also because of our ability to enforce it. So what we tried to do is educate folks on how to be safe, educate folks on what is legal versus not legal. In the eastern foothills or in the foothills, there is 100% ban. Put the signs up, and every year you'll have the reader board signs. You'll have they're on McAndrews, they're on Hillcrest, they're on Foothill. There's not supposed to be any kind of fireworks in that high hazard wildfire area. But as far as the ground level and the valley floor, they can do some of those type 1 level fireworks. So I don't know, Chief Ivins, if you have anything. And the other thing is the enforcement piece. There is fines. So it's $2,500 for the fine. Oftentimes what happens, our friends in blue or in the police department, they're the ones that actually go to respond with the enforcement piece of it. And what happens when they pull up in the cul-de-sac? Everybody scatters. Everybody runs. Nobody really wants to say, okay, I did it. So it's really hard to identify who actually shot the firework. And if you don't physically see them do it, it's hard to have the ticket really hold up in court. And so we understand the frustration. Yes, sir.
Quick thought. In this particular situation, there are 174 homes there. Would it be possible to put a fire department car, police department car in that cul-de-sac? Just sit there. Doesn't even have to be anybody in it. Because people, last year, the fire department drove by, saw them, said they couldn't do anything because they didn't see them shooting off. And when they left, back up in the air.
It's hard just to leave a resource there because we're actually using our resources to respond. And that's what's happening on the 4th and the day prior to and the day after is as soon as the sun goes down, we're running nonstop. It's calls. And we're bouncing from call to call to call. And sometimes we have to prioritize those calls. Our goal is to keep the fire small so it doesn't spread. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting idea, and clearly dummy cars have been around for a while. I'm not into that. One of the things that I was involved in, we were doing basically a study. Kind of the simplest way to say it is, regardless of campgrounds going down from 137 to 13, 1 point all the way down, homelessness still ranks very, very high on. We spent some time looking at those numbers and really diving. Part of that process, we sort of found there's, you sort of look at some practices that are, whether it be dummy vehicles. What one place did, they took an out of service vehicle, out of service police cruiser, but actually mounted cameras on that. Now, there's going to be some people who are going to tell us, hey, we don't want cameras, right? That's going to happen. But there's just different ideas that maybe are a little bit low cost, at least from a labor standpoint, that I think we as a city.
One of the things that I've looked at this, because this is something that I've heard from a lot of people about, there's a lot of concern about fire, and I really understand that. I enjoyed as a kid playing with fireworks, but there is, a lot drier, it's a lot hotter, especially years like this year. This is gonna be a bad year. And so, but as Mayor said, we banned these before and it was worse. This isn't like calls for service in the sense of people tattling. This was calls for service as us having to respond to spot fires and actual problems. And more fireworks were being used more recklessly, even though we had banned them than not. And unfortunately, this is something other communities have seen as they've done it. And so one of the things that I would love for us to figure out how to do as a community, as a culture for our community, let's make New Year's our fireworks season. Because it's a lot safer for us, and it's New Year's, and other people do this, other communities that have extreme fire risk, and that's a change for us. But if everybody in here makes a commitment that says, hey, we're going to do fireworks on New Year's and not 4th of July, and I know that's sad to not have it around 4th of July, but the county has caught their own fairgrounds on fire. These are the professionals doing this. This is a dangerous thing. And so, if we do this, if we commit to this, if we can get our friends to this, maybe there is a possibility that we can change this. And so it's not about Medford saying no fireworks. It's about Medford saying, let's do it when it's safer, when it's right, and celebrate in a different way. These are just thoughts. I don't know how to force anybody to do anything I want, because like I said, when we tried that, it backfired spectacularly. So, whatever that might look like, but I just think this isn't something that the city of Medford can fix as a government. This is something that we as the people have to try to come up with a solution to protect our community. The city just isn't have the right team.
Maybe we can't fix it. But there's one thing we can explore. Costs money, but it might cost less money than sending the police out. One thing we could consider, and I'm going to suggest we at least give it some thought, having a city fireworks. Have everybody who would be blowing up the streets come watch our business. Might be cheaper than overtime.
Harry, it's down tomorrow.
Okay?
They're shooting them up there.
Huge fireworks.
They
Super.
have to do it themselves. They couldn't go and watch them at the field.
Great. Well, I guess the question is, we want to spend city money, see if it works.
Take that.
And we'll take it out of what we pay the mayor. Or do we keep it the way it is? The people who are in St. George and South Stage and King, I remember the Elm. Remember sweating to see whether my house. Listening to it on the scanner coming my way.
But are there areas that are more in danger than others?
Yeah, my house, St. George, pretty much.
Greenway, which I'm gonna bring up later, where they were shooting them off, and it was frightening. And actually, a gentleman from the fire department that was at the park, they were so huge, he came over to see what was going on. He came into the park and I started to talk to him. All of a sudden, somebody let off this huge one. They were as big as at the park, and he just went flying out there to try to stop them. At the end of the night, all that burning debris is all, they leave it all sitting there. I was out till 11:30. If the wind came up, and we know there's a lot of wind, this is the dead area right where they were setting them off. If the wind came up, that would have been the greenway all the way down again. So that's our frustration, and I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna make excuses. I've given you an idea for us to think about.
The Jackson County Expo that does them every year, this is the last year they're doing it. It's in one of those Medford alerts.
Maybe an impractical decision, but it might be something worth looking at that might be cheaper than nice piece.
No, all I'm just saying is, they do it at the expo, but I read a few months ago, that last year they're doing it because they've just re-examined it and thought it's just too. So, I mean, we have had that at the fairgrounds, but they're even. Seem like it might be really time right now. This code enforcement, control grass, so we know everything is really low level. That's
I would like to say one more. thing.
Here's what I'm gonna throw out. What we are doing, right up at the fireworks event. Number one, we have an enforcement issue down there that sounds pretty serious. What I would really want you to do is find me afterwards, talk to me. We'll make sure that what we've got going on there, what you're bringing up, highly specific, sounds highly dangerous. We'll make sure that given that, like, detailed, specific thought. As far as help me out.
Excellent.
Thank you. We are now kicking around the idea. So what Medford is going, actually, Ms. Rosenthal, what is Medford gonna do this for?
Hello, everyone. So, the city is out of the fireworks business. But what we will be getting into, starting in 2027, either downtown or at the sports park, is a drone show, July 4th. So, it is the modern fireworks. It's safer, and hopefully they don't collide, crash, and then start a grass fire.
How about this year?
This year, because drone shows are expensive, and there are only so many companies in the country that do them, and they were all booked up for this year. And plus, the county's doing its thing for the last time, as you mentioned. So we have a contract for 2027. For this July 4th, we have an open house at the from 1 to 3 at the Rogue X. It'll be free. We'll have a barbecue. We'll have free hot dogs. The pools will be open. There'll be activities in the event center, and we'll have a band, and we will have a good time from 1 to 3 on July 4th, and then July 4th, 2027, drone show, DVD.
And then, actually, speaking of this year, there was one counselor very adamant that Medford needed to show up
For this year? Yeah, so this is the 250th anniversary of July 4th, 1776. Used to be the bicentennial. So Kevin Stein actually and I were very interested in this. And it's disappointing that there really hasn't been as much publicity as I remember for the bicentennial 50 years ago. So yeah, we proposed doing that, and the council was very responsive. And I'm really glad they did. So we're gonna have a big party down, and as you said, the pool will be free. It's gonna be a good time, and we will have done our duty. I hope there's gonna red, white, and blue bunting, that kind of thing.
Bunting.
Bunting. Yeah, it's like
We're not doing bunting, but we have some cool premiums.
We'll talk later.
All right, excellent. So one kind of, a little bit more philosophical question that came in. This will be interesting. How can we change the Medford City Charter to promote fiscal responsibility and bring large expenditures to the vote? So changing the city charter, very straightforward. Mr. Minton?
So changing the city charter, city charter is like the Constitution of the United States. It's a founding document. It can only be changed through a vote of the populace. And it's something that is not done frequently because it is an underlying founding document. Just to address the issue of individual expenditures, if the charter were to be changed so that individual expenditures go out to the populace, what that would mean is that individual expenditures at most could be decided once or twice a year, which operationally for the city is a very challenging thing. That's one of the ideas behind representative government is these councilors meet 2 to 4 times per month to be able to make decisions representing the views of their constituents. If we try to make all sorts of decisions, the fire department needs a new fire apparatus. If we need to wait 6 months to make each of those decisions, it makes it hard to run a city of 95,000 people. But if there is a change to the charter, it has to be that change is on the ballot, whether it's a small change to the charter, like changing the rate of transient lodging tax, or a fundamental change to the charter. All of that is an electoral process.
I think a little bit more specific is anything you can do is you can go out, petition with the ballot title, I believe, there's a certain number of signatures that you would have to have, at which point then refer that question to the rest of it. But I think the bigger question is, what kind of thought process goes on by a counselor? Big idea. And again, I don't really know that anyone here is actually that concerned whether or not on our replacement rate of fire engines, which by the way are extraordinarily expensive. 1.2 at this point in time. Those are big ticket items, however, those just have a standard. But if you're a counselor thinking about an idea that feels more discretionary, I think maybe that's what I'm out of this question, how that gets evaluated. Counselors can. Are you prepared?
So someone will come up with an idea about the money situation. We would refer that probably to finance department, get the numbers right. Bounce it around, of course, in a study session usually, or one-on-one with counselors. If it makes sense, if it's something that we think would be beneficial to the city and have a good return on investment, we'll put that to a vote. I mean, have John Biles' group and everyone take a look at it, make sure it's fiscally wise, and just the way anyone would make a really big decision. You think about it a lot. You get opposing views. You talk to constituents, of course, and try to figure out if it's the right thing for the city. We are in the midst of doing that with 2 or 3 different items. And the more input we get from the people of the city, the better. That's my take.
So one of the things too about spending money is we go through a really rigorous budgeting process as the city. So we have a separate budgeting committee that meets. We go through separate budget committee meetings that are open to the public, that we encourage public comment. And in fact, I'm just trying to think, I don't know if since I've been on council, I've received a single public comment about our budget process. So we go through this entire budgeting process, and then that budget sets most of those expenditures. As the mayor said, we buy a new fire truck. That's an expensive item. We're working on a $300 million wastewater treatment plant. There's a lot of expensive items that go into those things, but those are all part of the budgeted items for those pieces of government. When you actually look at what income or what funds council actually can spend in a discretionary way, that's not a lot of money. We spend maybe a couple $1 million total in all of our grant programs. We have funds that we are able to use wearing our different hat as part of the Medford Urban Renewal Board. And so ultimately, the big action that we do as council is less about fiscal policy and more about setting the forward-looking policy through our strategic plans. And then as those plans sort of come through, ensuring that we are meeting a balanced budget to achieve the goals of those plans. Of course, it's easy to dream really big and put a lot of stuff in our strategic plans, and we just don't have the money to do it. We are statutorily required to have a balanced budget. We cannot, we cannot just spend more than we get. That's not allowed by state law. And so when you really look at sort of that process, I'll tell you, as a counselor, one of the things that frustrated me when I first sort of came into council is government is slow. It's not like I got to come in here and fix all these things that were wrong, because it really wasn't like all these things were wrong. It's that I had disagreements, sometimes substantively, but these are with strategic policy documents that are being enacted over decades, not a bunch of new things that happen every day. I think about work that I do in business, and it's like I can change my mind really quickly. In government, we can't. And sometimes that's actually a strength, because when you look at the messy responsibility of government, I look around this room and I've had conversations with a lot of you, and I know there are a lot of different opinions represented here in the audience. And so we've got to have a process that allows everybody to come to the table, that allows, as Kevin said, different ideas to be brought forward. We can stress test that. That is a slow, methodical process. And so when you talk about fiscal responsibility, that isn't to say fiscal responsibility is unimportant, but it's also nested within a bunch of other guardrails that are part of the municipal process.
I really don't have much to add to what Nick just said. I fall in line with all that. But right now, the city council initiative funds are open applications. So typically, we give away money for scholarships for kids for swim lessons or for Kids Unlimited memorial. You see memorials around town. Right now, the applications are open to spend some money to help the community. So if you guys have ideas, see me after.
A lot of it comes down to keeping informed and trust. That's a big question. Some people are trusted. But I can give you some examples. It's very easy to look at an agenda and see a big number and go, but we've done a lot of things to save a lot of money over time. The fire department has their EMT squads now, which is a $60,000 truck equipped instead of $1 million fire engine that goes out and rescues people. Easier on the roads, less gas, maybe $1 million. They last a while, they're easy to fix. That's an example. Oh no, $500,000 to redo the sewers. Okay, well, we're redoing it with cured in place pipe. You can get it's a fraction of what it would cost to dig them up, replace them. You have to replace them. If you don't, they're gonna break. So yes, it's $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. But if you dug it up, it'd be $2 million. But we do quite a lot of things, save a lot of money. Once you communicate with us, watch us, put some little trust, see what we're really doing. Not as bad as you may think.
All right, so we got a pile here. Who's interested in Hawthorne Park or baseball stadium? At least I thought, actually. So, well, thank you all who had your hand up for putting in a question, because I think you must have. Let's kick it off with the whole concept of downtown revitalization and external tourism and money seems wrong. As the council consider revitalization projects, local residents downtown. I think that's the question. I mean, local residents downtown is trying to. To me, I think it's not an either or thing, it's an and. And when you talk about local residents, one of the things that I know I've heard a lot from people is when they don't want to come downtown because they're concerned about homeless issues. There's a lack of convenient parking or available parking for them to come downtown. And so Main Street, I heard a lot of complaints about Main Street. And so, there are definitely things that as a council we can do from a local community perspective to try to address some of those things. The new configuration for Main Street that we adopted adds about 40% more parking on Main Street itself. So that's something to try to create more convenient parking so people. We've done a lot of work with, over the last 2-3 years, with having downtown officers to try to make the space in downtown more friendly. We work very close with the Downtown Medford Chamber to try to help identify storefronts, identify businesses, create those matches to bring more local businesses downtown or help those who are already downtown to expand. I wish there was a magic wand that we could wave that would just say, everybody go downtown. And I think one of the things that's really unfortunate for us is that downtown Medford, especially during the height of the pandemic, was really an uncomfortable place to be. And there's a lot of people who had an experience of going downtown during that time. And that has now shaped their perspective or their perception of what it means to be in downtown Medford. But the downtown Medford we have today is not the same as the downtown Medford 2 or 3 years ago. It is much nicer. It's much cleaner. I talked to a lot of business owners that have space down there, and they are very excited about transformations that are coming. They're seeing more customers. So I also think it is a misconception to say that we're not actively growing, because according to a lot of the people I've talked to, they are seeing. And so as we talk about how do we help local communities, we cannot, when you say Medford, what are we going to do with downtown? We're going to have all these tours come. Tourism is a great thing for our community, but it is not, we're not beach. We're not Los Angeles and I'm glad we're not, because I don't want to live in Los Angeles. I want to live in Medford, Oregon. And so
And so if we're trying to imagine a world in which all of these tourists come to Medford and the tourists single-handedly support our entire economy, that is not a realistic vision for the future. Medford is going to drive Medford's future. The people who live here, the people who live in our surrounding communities are going to drive that future. And so it is very important. That is going to be the primary driver, in my opinion, for the economic revitalization of downtown, what we want to see. And so engaging with those who are downtown that are trying, they're working hard, that is an important part. And as council, we've spent a lot of time having those conversations, hearing from people, and trying to come up with ways. We just put together a downtown master plan, which is looking at ways to try to create more activation of underutilized spaces downtown to create some more interesting things that we can do. And as part of the new transportation system plan that we're going to be working on, some of the things that we've been talking about as council is how to do more like bike and ped infrastructure in downtown in a way that doesn't just take away from the roads, but again, takes advantage of some of these underutilized spaces. So I think there's a lot that has happened over the last few years and will be happening over the next few years to do that kind of local revitalization.
And one comment, I guess, I would just kind of chime. It's an important point about it for all these facilities to work. Let's be honest, a conference center, which has been giant goal, local business community. When I say a long time, I would say it predates me on council. 12 plus, about 15 years. And one of their highest priorities is to be able to bring in other people from other communities to see what's here. They see it as a giant. That is clearly 100% intentional. How do we get people from another town? We've invested a lot in public facilities, specifically mostly recreation facilities, right? We built all the outdoor fields, and we've also built our indoor stadium, right? Got fields. Those were always intended to serve the local. However, they have the extra benefit of the ability now to host big major national events. And so what we're able to do is leverage that to have facilities that we honestly probably otherwise would not be able to have. And that's always been kind of an underlying thought, at least in my own head, about how do we do this? How do we serve the community, but at the same time be able to reach a little bit higher? I don't know, Rich, if you're willing to talk a little bit about return on investment, what happened with the program.
Thank you, Mayor. The sports park, Lithium Driveway Fields, used to be called U.S. Cellular Community Park, opened in May of 2008. It was a $32 million build-out, 15 fields. There was plenty of opposition locally. That's a huge number for 2006. Some of you may remember the conversation, but since the council approved the funding, the facility was built, that the economic stimulus that those 15 fields have provided Medford is over $170 million. Now, that's not revenue, a profit to the city of Medford. The operating costs, it's still subsidized because we have to maintain it. But we're serving local needs. There are a lot of teams and a lot of people who are sleeping in their own beds, not driving anywhere to get the best possible competition and athletic experience. They don't have to drive to Reno. They don't have to drive to Eugene. They don't have to drive to Portland. But teams from those cities and all around the Northwest are coming to Medford for a weekend. They're eating in the restaurants. They're staying in the hotels. They're buying things in Medford. That's what I'm talking about. That's the return on investment that the mayor is speaking about. And the same with the ROGAX. And we measure it.
I just wanted to say something about this. Medford is a great place to live. You know, we are the center of it all. I tell people all the time, when was the last time you lived in a town where you could be at the airport in 10 minutes? But on top of that, you know, we've got culture here. We've got a history center. We've got the Holly Theater.
We've got acts coming in all the time. We've got restaurants downtown. We got really good parks, bus system, library. We've got a ton of things to do down there. What I'm finding is that a lot of people just don't do it. And I think it's important, you guys are here, that you're really investing in your community, your own time. But go down and, we used the cobbler shop down there. We went to dinner the other night there, we went to Art and Bloom. It depends on the people who live in the city to get out there and support the businesses that are in the city as well. So, part of it's on us. And I hope to encourage all you guys to actually go down and shop Medford more often.
Okay. Which specific urban renewal project may be taken from fund the Creekside Quarter feasibility study? We were talking about the speed of government a little bit earlier. And I'm keeping that back on. We're kind of at the end of life of what we're calling Mural One. That was the original urban renewal projects, kind of feed off of the Southgate Fred Meyer development. Carry stems back to downtown. Again, I think I mentioned that. Wasn't on council, took 2 years off, came back. My last couple of years on council, the council's also the urban renewal agent. We were talking about projects. We had it all figured out, how all the money of 1.0 was going to be spent. And then I come back 3 years later, let's say, mayor, and we're still talking about how we're going to spend that last little bit. Mira does what we did and what we helped with the criteria. Not a lot. That was actually mostly community funding and funding. We helped with the hauling. Again, a lot of fun. We did a ton of parking lots, parking garages, streetscapes, a lot of things like this civil, urban architecture improvements, what we did, a ton of. And then towards the end of that, we're saying, no, now we want to try and see if we can get people to come down here and live. We want to get this 24/7 presence. And finding projects to do that is extraordinary. So now, the question being, if you take $250,000 for a feasibility study, what are you giving up? The question, I would answer it today saying, we could spend that on anything. I'm just telling you, we're trying to be effective and smart and strategic. We have not really found where we really wanted to spend that money. It's just interesting that 3 years later, we're still talking about how to do it at one point. I don't know.
As I said in one of our meetings, we haven't spent. So we have to decide what theme is going to kick in, studies. That's very much an open question. Don't kick in enough. All right. Shows us what they're about. So the money's not gone yet. Don't get too excited yet. We have the money available. Really aren't projects to do much with. Wind down one, so hard to say what's being foregone. Even if we do spend the money, not out the door yet. To be continued.
All right. What public outreach was conducted to see if Medford residents want a downtown city? Besides posting the city council's intent on the city's website. This has been something that I know that I've carried into rooms to discuss, and other people have gone into rooms. So when I say rooms, the manor residents, they usually reach out and say, hey, what's going on? Talk about it. So this has been in most public service groups. How am I trying to say? It's like a service group. Civic groups. Thank you. Your Rotaries. Who else maybe? Gamer. One of the things that was a previous question about mirror. That's kind of where this does fall. Number one, go back to where the conference, that was always a goal. Relatively downtown center. As the baseball stadium sort of kind of crept into that conversation, we do see this formation of the concept of, and we see the concept of how is that funding. One of the advantages of going through a mirror process with that is riddled with public process. Everyone can come out, everyone can bring their, what we'll do with Mira is there's gonna be a multiple of time. So I'll give you an example. I told you Mira 1.0 focused real heavy on essentially street and parking improvement. There's an entire project list of them. That's what will happen in a Mira 2. So it makes really good sense to try to put all of these different options, and that's where you start to talk about what your trade-off between a Riverside streetscape or new parking garage, location X, or is it supporting more vertical housing in, say, the north end downtown? All these things kind of come up, and that's a priority setting that project choosing that is 100% above. I guess the question would be, is it, do we put mailers in the bills? Well, nowadays we're emailing everything. So we do our outreach has become a lot more challenging because you do not have the paper. You don't have even the inserts in the buildings. Everything's email. What I just read on social media, true or false or whatever. I mean, it's just challenging to get out there. But however, we all found our way into this room. We have 10 different comments on this particular issue. So I guess what I would suggest is the process is now, previous, it's continuing. I don't know if anybody else wants to share. Nick, you're called out by name.
Oh, okay.
Nick Card at the, by date as well. April 16th council meeting, you stated that we would not pay more than the emeralds for this project. Why has the council maybe said agreed to pay 2 times with the emeralds? Stadium financing is very, very tricky.
So, what I said was that the city is not gonna contribute a penny more than the Emeralds do to the feasibility study. And I believe this very firmly, that if we don't have a partner in the team that's trying to come here with the easy money, they're not putting the easy money in, they're not gonna put the hard money in. And then this is gonna be something that's gonna be, if we move forward, it'll be all on the city. It's not gonna be something we can afford. It's gonna be a problem for us, and it's gonna kill the project. And so, in my view, I want to know if our partner is going to be committed in the beginning, because I don't want to find out at the 11th hour. The good news is my understanding is that we are sitting in a situation where indeed the Emeralds are paying, okay, getting head nods, the Emeralds are indeed paying half of the feasibility study. So that means that for this feasibility study, we have the Emeralds proposing to pay for half of that cost. Penny for penny, as I had requested. If it was a penny more, I would have been a no vote, or I will, I guess we'll get the final numbers, John, coming up here, but, because we haven't actually voted to spend the money yet, but that was what I was saying, and I do believe this. Now, when you look at the way that minor league stadiums, or sports stadiums in general, get built and funded, there's a million different ways that those funding schemes work. There's a million different tools and mechanisms by which you can come up with financing and debt, and it's really complicated and esoteric, but one of the things that is really important to me is that the city cannot be put in a position where we build a stadium and then we hope and pray that somebody is going to come and play in our stadium. You have to be involved in a process by which whatever team is playing, whatever league is playing. This is true as we talk about a baseball stadium. We've also had soccer. Minor league soccer has come to us to discuss options to put in a minor league soccer stadium in Medford. If we don't have a league and a team that are committed to the process, to the construction, to the community, then if it's easy for them to come in, it's going to be easy for them to go out, and then the citizens of Medford are going to be left holding the bag. And so we have to make sure that we have the right contracts, agreements, and process in place to protect city and whatever this looks like. So when we talk about this minor league baseball thing, this isn't like the city's doing something and we hope the Emeralds will come on. We have regular communication with Major League Baseball, MLB. They are a partner. We will have an agreement with Major League Baseball separate from whatever team is here, because that's all part of this process to make sure that this stadium is going to meet those requirements. That's why the Emeralds are looking for a new home right now. Their current stadium that they share with the University of Oregon does not meet Major League Baseball's requirements. And so, we can't build a stadium and then next year it doesn't meet the requirements anymore. Too bad, so sad. That's not acceptable. And I don't think it's acceptable to anybody who's on council. And so that process in terms of how do we make sure that we protect the city, we have partners that are through, that's what I was speaking to, because we had, it is possible that we might not have had a good partner on the other end of the table. There are good teams and there are bad teams, and this is true across all sports leagues. And so what I'm pleased with is the Emeralds are, to me, proving that their partnership extends in these early phases. They're willing to put money into this process that may go away. Hypothetically speaking, this feasibility study may show a stadium that doesn't work for Medford. Either it's too expensive, or there are issues with the different sites, or there's a bunch of reasons why we have to go through this study and look at these deep questions about actual design and things before we can say, yes, let's move forward with building whatever we got to build. And so for me to see the Emeralds willing to put in money, these guys are a business, and they're putting money into this that could go away. It could go away because we find something in the feasibility study we don't like or is not feasible, or it could go away because at the end of the day, when we look at all the costs and the benefit, the city council says, you know what, this isn't in the best interest of Medford, and sorry, we're not going to do it. And so,
Can I ask you a question?
well, I will give you that courtesy, Bill.
Thank you. What makes you think that if it doesn't work in Eugene, that it's gonna work in Medford?
So the reason why I think if it's not going to work in Eugene, it might work in Medford is there are two reasons. One is it's not that the Emeralds as a program failed in Eugene and they're looking to come to Medford as a smaller market, do something they didn't do. Medford is about median size for a minor league baseball city. So we're not that far out of the norm. What failed for them in Eugene was the idea that the way that the community was going to pay for this was out of their own personal property taxes. And that was the only thing that the county and the team put together. They put a property tax levy on the ballot, and if I had been a Eugene voter, I'd have voted no on the same thing too. And that's why it failed, because I think it's wrong to ask the people of Medford to pay out of their own property taxes to build something like a stadium. It was $20 million that they were asked to put this up. So part of what we've been looking at as the council is how do we fund this in ways that leverage mechanisms that don't go against the voters, that aren't fees on your utility bill, that aren't property tax increases, but instead are leveraging the kind of development that we're trying to spur with the sort of Creekside Quarter thing. How do we create a taxing district that we tax the new development that's coming in around the stadium and use that to help pay for the stadium and the parking and the stuff that goes into it? Those tools exist for us, and those are tools that Lane County and the city of Eugene did not use to try to build the stadium for the Emeralds. And that's why it failed in Eugene. And the fact that it failed meant that the community said, they threw their hands up and said, we don't know, whatever, you got to figure it out on your own. And so they went out and they went to try to find somebody who was willing to be a partner with them and try to get this across the finish line and do it in a way that, in my opinion, is a little smarter than what Lane County tried to do by asking their voters to raise their property taxes directly to pay for a stadium. And that, like I said, I think that's wrong. So we're trying to do it different.
So different does not mean foregone conclusion. And there's another question here about why are we spending? What was done originally? What was done originally was a pretty quick, I don't know about quick, it was an economic analysis asking whether this in concept. And what we found is probably, here's what I'll tell you. Of course, if everything goes per plan, it works. Knock yourself out. I think the quote from Sold was, I want to say it was, you're crazy if you don't. I can't remember. I mean, it was something to that, like you guys gotta go. I don't think the council sees it. Now, are we interested in the idea that currently right now there are 120 communities in this nation that have MySpace, are a part of it. We actually have gone to a town where we've got the more modern stadiums in an area, growth occurs around. They are parts of redevelopment plans. They are a strategy, but not at any cost. It has to make sense. That's the whole point. So for every single person that says, hey, I think this is too expensive, you're absolutely right. There is a number that is too expensive. I have a feeling of where that's at. So if they walked in tomorrow, I'll give you an example and say, there's no way you're doing this for less than $130 million. I can tell you right now, that is a number for a fact. We're gonna have to park. But there is an over-under where it gets to be a harder decision. That's what we're trying to evaluate. Also have to think about this. Back to the concept of your road exits and your lithium driveway field. Is this an asset that will be used properly by the community? Single-purpose baseball stadium is more challenging, in my opinion. I look at that. Every single study I said to talk about, you're gonna get 200 events a year out of it. 200, that's a lot. Because we're talking about basically 66 home games for a baseball stadium. For a baseball team, how are you gonna get 200? And they kind of list them out. So the question is, if we really look at that, really look at the use, we really look at one, also, number one, okay, we bring the team in, with a completely different kind of family atmosphere. Minor league stadiums are 100% family. However, 66 games a year for $130 million, there's no way you can. We just use numbers. But and then another question becomes, is this really a community asset that gets used? Other ones I heard a lot of talk about the Hawthorne Farmers Park. And I see pictures of other stadiums, and that's exactly where the farmers market is. There is repurposing, it's not, the doors are locked. We're 365, so that should be 299 days a year. It's gotta be a little bit, it's gotta have a dollar sign. Numbers behind the dollar sign that makes it. I don't know if anybody else knows. There's skepticism. There's optimism, but there's plenty of skepticism. Ball fields. What about parking? That's a good question. So I saw an interesting thing. And by the way, okay, I'm gonna talk more about baseball stadiums. I'm in a kind of a mayor education group with a bunch of people. Well, not a bunch of people. People from it's kind of split evenly between the United States and. But two of them that are in my group are building. Number one, there's one that their community is building a baseball stadium right now, and another one that is kind of in the mix with Portland and Salt Lake City. Another one, so for an expansion, and we get to talking about that. So the numbers that I just threw out to you, like that $130 million, just doesn't work. I'll tell you that. Those guys are talking in the $1.3 billion. But it's interesting because stadium financing kind of is the same regardless of the size. It's all an economy of scale. And when I talk and I listen to them about what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to get done, There's people in their communities that are saying the same exact things. They're saying, how do you make that work? However, I got a little sidetracked from the idea of this. If you look at Dodger Stadium today, you see a stadium and a sea of asphalt. If you go to Washington DC, Washington National Stadium, you don't see that. Parking is not at the single giant day, everybody drives in, kind of changing. That model's changing. It's changed in Sacramento for the Sacramento Kings. Will there be some parking? Yes. Will there probably be in conjunction, if this went perfect, conjunction with the conference center? Yes. Could that also be used for additional downtown events? Yes. There will be some there, but in general, parking gets dispersed. Now, I'm sure if you live on Genesee right now, that whole concept that drives you crazy to think about. At the end of the day, if you're parked on the street, they can't park on the street. You're gonna be good. That is kind of how the model is. Now, we will, of course, look at traffic impact. We will look at parking, consider it. It's just parking has somewhat diminished as an absolute. And footprints are shrinking. Now, I'm using, again, big, giant, Major League Baseball stadiums as examples, but that's kind of how it's working. So we'll figure out parking. We'll be studying. Assuming it is an option. I should mention that we are also looking at an option that would convert or upgrade Harry and David Field. I could get in here, I could talk to you guys for another 20 minutes about the pluses and minuses of Harry and David versus downtown, but we'll move on. I have absolutely monopolized the time. Zach, do you have anything to share on this?
Learn a lot.
Okay, let's find, you know what? We got kudos. I'm gonna share these. Rogue X, 2 thumbs up. Courts at Rogue X pickleball, 2 thumbs up. Lithia driveway field, great, pretty. Rich, take it back. Although this does look suspiciously like your hand. Kind of a general question. What is your process for auditing all city departments? So that as counselors, you know that each department is doing not just what they're supposed to do, but what they say they're doing. Interesting question. Let's go down the line. Kevin, do you want to be on the spot first, or? All right, on the card.
So that's a really good question. I mean, there is a limit. I'll stand. There is a limit to how much time I can personally dedicate to standing over John's shoulder, and there's definitely a limit to how much time John wants me standing over his shoulder. But you know, we are volunteers. We are not paid. This is something that we do in the evenings in our free time. We have day jobs, so that does limit some of the specifics. And so part of how we know what's going on is, you know, I think this is something that we've done a really good job of as councils, building a culture of trust and openness with our city manager and our department heads. There is not a single department head in the city that would, you know, see me and run the other way. I mean, they may jokingly do that, but I don't think honestly they're all ready to have a tough conversation with me, and they are doing a great job at running their departments. We get updates every month from department heads, so we can see exactly what's going on, what they're working on, you know, what their issues are, what their challenges are. These updates are pretty open. They're not just check, double thumbs up, all good. It's strengths, weaknesses, problems. I think we've done a really good job too of talking about and framing our challenges in the city in terms of what are the barriers that council can help address. Sometimes these are policy issues that come to us from the state. Sometimes these are policy issues of our own making. Sometimes these are financial or budgetary. And so how do we make sure that you know, all of those piece together? Another thing that's really important is the dollars. We have a fantastic CFO. It's too bad that Ryan couldn't join us tonight, but Ryan Martin, who is the CFO of the city, he has an audit team and an accounting team. And at the end of the day, as I say in business, you want to know what's happening? Follow the money. And so it is complex. Public government accounting is complex. Even if you know GAAP and traditional private accounting, what you see in government is different. But we have a really good team who is constantly checking because, and this is the other piece of it. It's not just like it's his job to check. It's part of his fiduciary responsibility, city, to check and know what's going on. He has to produce reports and audits that he personally signs off on about what is going on in the city. And so when you start to piece all of these things together, and you think about, hey, what if somebody out there really wanted to try to pull a fast one on council? We have a great team, not just as counselors that we individually are engaged with different issues, but also our staff at a high level, as well as the financial and legal assistance that you put that all together. And what you end up with is a city that is basically doing what it says it's doing. Does that mean it's always doing what I want it to be doing? No, unfortunately, but I'm only one of 8 counselors, so I don't always get the world I want to live in. But anyway, here you go.
I'll just say something real quick on this. It's really important that we have a strong CEO and the person of the city manager. We certainly have one now, and we've had one in the past. So we're in the process right now of picking a new one, and we're all going to be looking very, very carefully at that. As far as we get updated quite a bit, lots of public input. Whenever you send an email to council, all 8 counselors get it, and the mayor. And then we will ask follow-up questions with staff. Staff answers those questions very quickly and very extensively. We were going through I think it was 1,100 pages was the agenda packet for a couple weeks back. And there was something in there about AEDs. I think they're the defibrillators. And it was like, did the math on it. It's like if $500 a defibrillator. I was like, that can't be right. And so I asked the chief, and the chief got back to me within a day and had a very reasonable answer. So we try to stay on top of stuff. We have an excellent staff. You have an excellent staff. And I don't see that as being a problem. And we have an auditor, and I think we do a good job in that.
Right here.
Yeah. So one of the things I do in Siskiyou County is I'm the public corruption prosecutor. All the people who steal money from government agencies get to have quality time with me and prison. Usually the problem is that there's a failure of checks and balances and internal procedures. I never cease to be amazed by what isn't checked and what isn't watched and how long things can be gotten away with. This is not that. We have excellent checks and balances. I wouldn't try to city because I don't think anybody would get away with it. It is very well run, very well monitored, very well audited. They're doing a good job, staff. You're paying them, but you're getting a lot of value. So you should be willing to trust them and not too worried about it.
When I was, there's been a lot of, things in the ether. You'll see, all this fraud, Medicare fraud in Minnesota, California, and these different things. And I'm always like, how is that even possible? I mean, I think that the threshold is pretty low, but any money that we get from the federal government, we have to do a single audit on that program just to verify that the money's been spent properly. So, I mean, back to your point, John Quinn, I mean, I don't know how they get away with it, but it's, that also makes me a little skeptical of everything.
I'm not an elected official, but I'll just add on to their answers real quick. I've been around a long time. I've worked with lots of boards and commissions. This is a group of men and women that does not rubber stamp. They ask us questions. I don't run from Nick, but when I see Nick coming, I know I'm going to get questions. This is not a group. This is not a council that rubber stamps. This is a council that asks hard questions. They challenge staff, and they hold us accountable.
Okay, so, I mean, everyone here's got their own schedule, so I'm not gonna hold you to it, but there's more questions that we're gonna get to in the time allotted, so people can if you didn't get your answer, stick around, and people will be here to answer questions. We'll kick one more off, because kind of on this whole concept of how are we doing, transparency is a couple things I have. So, this was a question that a few of you had. How can we trust that council will be objective about Creekside Quarter, when two council members created a PAC board. And that's an interesting question about what if I believe in a project as an elected official? Does that mean that I don't advocate? That's a tricky one, isn't it? No? Don't advocate? This is representative government. People all have opinion. They have maybe things that they're passionate about. Now, if we all just say no, and we just evaluate, but that's a good point. This has to make sense. Whatever it is. And one person can love it. And by the way, here's what I have found. One person loves something. There's somebody else on the council who goes, I don't see it the same way. That's just been my experience. However, Nick,
As one of the counselors who formed a PAC, Kevin is the other one.
That Kevin.
That Kevin. Oh wait, you don't have to use Tim. No. And to the mayor's point, I mean, the reason why I participated in the PAC, I didn't receive any money to be in the PAC. There was no benefit for me to being part of the PAC other than a personal conviction that this is a thing that is important for the future of Medford. And I don't always agree with everybody, as Mike had talked about. I don't always agree with all of councils, but I do believe that when we are convicted of good thing, we do have a duty to try to make that real. The campaign that the PAC was about was specifically related to the charter amendment to the city charter to raise the transient lodging. This campaign was specifically that transient lodging tax. Based on what council had voted on, the intention for that increase in transient lodging tax is to be used for the conference center. And so even if all of this stuff with baseball goes away, if we get to a number that isn't palatable, if we can't get the right kind of protections and contracts for the city, I will be saddened because I think, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I think bringing things like minor league sports to a community that has made a name for itself in our sports platforms, in our youth sports, in the sports activities that we've done, I think that's a good thing. But even if that all goes away, what we did with the transient lodging tax increase, I think is still really important because it speaks to some of those other pieces like the conference center. That money by council's vote is committed to use for the conference center to get that piece built. If the stadium goes away, that's still there, and I hope that that conference center is going to. As part of what that means to do a PAC, I'm going to go to Salem and I'm going to go ask and talk to our state representatives, and I'm going to seek money from the state to help make some of these things happen for Medford because I believe these are really important. And I've done that. I've done that on issues related to transportation. We were just in DC and I was there talking to Congressman Bentz to get money for our community to be able to build South Stage Road, to build an interchange that's critical for the future development of South Medford. We have a huge gap between exit 27 and exit 24 in Phoenix, building an overcrossing and an interchange. You talk about what Medford's going to need as Centennial builds out, as the employment campus just south of that builds out. This is the kind of infrastructure that we're going to have to do. And I know people who live in that area who say, hey, Nick, I don't want that because I like Medford being a farming community. I think that I want to keep Medford small, and that's what Medford means to me. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to disagree with that position. I think there are ways that we can embrace the past of Medford, but I also think that we have to be looking forward to the future. Times change, things change. That doesn't mean that we rush into it. We don't do it blind, but we do have to continue to move forward. And so if you disagree with me about that, I respect that position. And I don't want to speak for you, Kevin, but I'm going to continue to advocate for things that I think are important for our community. And I think that's an important job of whether I am a city councilor or not. I think that's an important job of any member. And so I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear your thoughts. As a city councilor, I represent the residents of Ward 4. And if you guys don't think I'm doing a good job of representing your beliefs and opinions, it's probably not because I'm only here to scheme for my own benefit. It's because I probably haven't heard your opinions. I haven't heard the facts that you know. I haven't heard that perspective. And I want to onboard that, and I want to incorporate that into what we do. There's so much opportunity for Medford. There's so much opportunity for our community. There's not one vision that is going to be the perfect Medford. It is all of us moving together, or moving forward together. And so, anyway, those are my thoughts on that. And I hope that isn't super offensive to anybody, but anyway, Mike, there you go. Yeah.
I guess one thing that is good, we are kicking off the idea of Era 2.0 ideas. We go back in time to when I left council, we were talking about it, and I come back on and we're still talking about it. So this predates anything that starts with, starts with Fair Creek Council, but there will still be a commitment to downtown, as Zach said. That is not going away. That is what Mira 2.0 is still about. So even if the idea is, are you being objective about Creekside Corridor, I will tell you that individual councilors may have stronger opinions pro, some are going to be stronger opinions on right now. But I will tell you that they were all open-minded to facts, seeing how. That also being said, just because a Creekside Corridor, for whatever reason, does not come to fruition, there still will be investment. There still will be a conference center funded by the TOT tax rate. But I should note, because we have not established where to put the conference center, how to do the conference center, we have a partner for the conference center. Even though the allowable tax ceiling has been raised, it has not been levied. We're only doing that when we actually. So, with that said, I'll tell you what, I'll come see you afterwards, but it ran a little long. People stick around, and thank you so much for coming and to the rush.
Thank you. Here, take Monday off. Good morning, Dan Lee. Quick start.
Good to see you again.
You were so funny. Let's see him.
It's an option. Yep. So it's just 15 acres. Stadium would be. So Hawthorne Park.
You do.
It's not going to be all. It's not going to be a baseball game. It'll be a baseball game. It'll be smaller. It's still just like it, or hate it. Ginger. You can say hate it because you don't like it, that's fine. But I just don't want it to get confused.
I gotta go back.
It's not like it. It's small. That's okay. Just don't think. Okay, I'll put you down for that.
Yeah.
You like Harry David better?
Oh, yeah, because.
Okay.
We gotta fix the ramps, but I can go back and take a look at it. There's rules with the crosswalks, you know, the lane traffic. I'll take a look and see it.